My name is Chris Morgan, and for the better part of 5 years, I've been a senior software engineer. In layman's terms, I'm a card-carrying member of the Pre-Bald Club. Birthdays? I filed that relic under unnecessary holiday expenses centuries ago. Given the choice, I'd rather bank 2 extra hours of sleep or grind for new gear for my gaming avatar. So, when my adorable little tyrant, Lily Davis, started dropping cryptic hints a week in advance about a mind-blowing, earth-shattering birthday surprise, my first reaction wasn't excitement. It was a cold dread prickling the back of my neck. "Babe," I mumbled, sprawled on the couch, my thumbs massaging my phone screen as my character hacked away at monsters. "Can we skip all the song and dance? A nice steak dinner, and then you let me sleep for a solid 24 hours. That's the best gift. Seriously, I swear on the faded F5 key of my keyboard." Lily was cross-legged on the rug, a colorful planner open in front of her. She chewed on the end of her pen, her brow furrowed so deep you could lose a quarter in it. She looked up, her big, round eyes fixing on me, her lips forming a perfect pout. "Chris, Morgan, are you questioning my creative genius? This is about making it special. Life needs a little sugar, especially for someone like you who's practically being pickled by Python." She tossed the pen down, scrambled over like a little bear cub, and snatched my phone. The screen went black. Then she attached herself to my arm like a koala and started to sway. "Come on, sweetie. Trust me. I promise you'll never, ever forget it." The faint scent of her, like freshly baked vanilla cupcakes and sun-dried laundry, drifted into my nose. Who could fight that? My firewalls were purely decorative when it came to her. I threw my hands up in surrender. All right. You win, Lily, master of ceremonies. You call the shots. I'll be waiting with bated breath." I prayed silently that she wouldn't come up with something like a binary birthday cake or a serenata coded in C++. On the day itself, I was yanked from my slumber by the usual Gatling gun barrage of calls from my project manager, Jim. I had to rush to the office to put out a fire. Some genius on the client side had changed their mind at the last minute, torpedoing the core requirements and sending the entire team into a panic frenzy. I worked until 3 in the afternoon, finally dragging my lead-filled legs and 2 giant dark circles under my eyes back to my desk, feeling like a wrung-out dish rag. The moment I pushed open the door to my disaster zone of a cubicle, I was hit by a smell. It was overpowering, complex, and utterly indescribable. The scent, how to put it? It was as if someone had dropped a wheel of the funkiest blue cheese into a vat of spicy crawfish boil, microwaved the mixture on high for 10 minutes, and then aerosolized the result. The air was thick, clinging, and saturated with a penetrating aroma. My stomach immediately did a backflip. What the hell? I clamped a hand over my nose, nearly passing out on the spot. I forced my eyes open. My desk, normally a mountain of snack wrappers and crumpled up notes, was spotlessly clean, which was terrifying enough. And in the dead center, placed with ceremonial precision, was a massive, wildly constructed cake. Calling it a cake was generous. The base looked like a burnt sponge, a color somewhere between caramel and charcoal. On top, someone had used a dark brown substance, presumably chocolate frosting, to draw a few abstract, lopsided keyboard keys. Next to the keys, in what I prayed was raspberry jam, were the words "Happy Birthday, Chris." But the masterstroke, the piece de resistance, was the topping. The entire surface was studded with bright red, glistening chunks of corn on the cob. Nestled among them were a few spicy roasted pecans and several sprigs of bright green parsley. The whole creation radiated a potent, soul-crushing fusion of a southern seafood boil and a cloyingly sweet bakery. It was a biochemical-grade, olfactory nuke. My cubicle was surrounded. The entire project team stood in a silent, 3-deep circle, their expressions a twisted mix of horror and glee. Some were biting their lips so hard their shoulders were shaking, trying to suppress laughter that threatened to cause internal injuries. Others stared in abject terror, as if witnessing the arrival of Cthulhu. A few were sneakily angling their phones, preparing to document this historic moment for posterity. Even Brenda, the notoriously stone-faced head of QA we called the Iron Maiden, had a hand to her forehead, her mouth twitching violently. The office was dead silent. The only sound the oppressive hum of the AC, while the cake silently screamed its existence into the atmosphere. Into this quiet, fragrant, and deeply awkward void, a figure in a lemon-yellow sundress bounced out from behind the crowd. Lily. She was holding two small candles, a 2 and a 9. Great. My age was now public knowledge. Her face glowing with a mixture of immense pride and a desperate praise me eagerness. She was completely oblivious to the circle of petrified humans around her. She skipped over to my desk, stood on her tiptoes, and carefully planted the candles in a thicket of corn. Then she tilted her sweet, radiant face up to mine, her big eyes blinking, her voice bright and cheerful. Sweetie, happy birthday. Are you surprised? Is it amazing? I spent 3 days researching recipes and failed so many times, but I finally perfected it. The Hardcore Coder's Crawfish Boil Surprise Cake. Go on, smell it. Isn't it incredible? Incredible. I stared into her shining eyes, felt the weight of my coworkers' gazes, a potent mix of pity, morbid curiosity, and sheer amusement, and inhaled the complex bouquet rocketing straight to my brainstem. My tongue felt like it had been tied in a knot. My brain crashed. The smell was a lot. Hardcore was right. I didn't know if my soul had been surprised, but my nasal passages were officially deceased. The office air remained frozen for a full 3 seconds. Then, someone couldn't hold it in. A choke escaped, lighting the fuse. An explosion of laughter ripped through the room. Ha 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 ha. Oh my God. A crawfish boil cake. A crawfish boil cake. Chris, your girlfriend is a legend. Hardcore. So hardcore. Dude, get a picture. This is going on Reddit. Birthday gift of the year. Chris, you gotta try it. She put her heart into it. The laughter practically shook the ceiling tiles loose. Jim slapped my shoulder, tears of mirth streaming down his face. Morgan, you lucky dog. This girl, she's a keeper. A real, original thinker. Brenda had turned away, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. I stood in the eye of a storm, my face burning, a roaring in my ears. I looked at my coworkers, who were now openly howling, then at my girlfriend beside me, who was beaming, completely missing the vibe, a picture of blissful ignorance. A hot flush shot up from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. The humiliation. This was my own personal social apocalypse. Acting on pure instinct, I grabbed Lily's wrist. I didn't even bother to nod at my hysterical colleagues. I half-dragged, half-pulled her out of the sea of glee, escaping the epicenter of the aromatic disaster. Behind us, their good-natured and merciless hoots and hollers followed us all the way to the elevator. Hey, Chris, what's wrong? Lily stumbled a bit, her face a mask of confusion and a little hurt. We didn't even cut the cake. Everyone seemed so happy. Happy. They were happy because you were the free entertainment. I took a deep breath as the elevator doors dinged shut, sealing us off from the noise. In the small, enclosed space, the complex aroma of sweet cake and savory seafood boil seemed to grow even stronger, seeping stubbornly from the cracks in the cake box she was cradling in her arms, launching a fresh assault on my senses. Lily. I turned and put my hands on her shoulders, trying to look serious, though my mouth was probably still twitching. The cake. The idea was great, really. Very. Unique. I scrambled for a word that wouldn't crush her spirit. But maybe next time, could we, just a little, consider the venue? Like, maybe not unleash something so impactful at my office. She blinked her big eyes, her long lashes like tiny fans. Venue? Impactful. She looked down at the box, radiating its signature scent, then back up at me. A look of dawning comprehension crossed her face. Oh, she said, and then her lower lip began to tremble, her eyes misting over instantly, her voice taking on a nasal tone. You hate my cake, don't you? I worked on it for so long. I even burned my hand on the oven. She held up her left index finger. Sure enough, there was a small, pink mark. And just like that, it was over. My embarrassment, my frustration, it all evaporated, annihilated by her watery eyes and that tiny burn. The flicker of anger in my chest was doused, replaced by a wave of guilt and helpless affection. No, I don't hate it at all. I quickly took her hand, blowing gently on the mark. Does it hurt? You have to be more careful. I sighed. pulling her cake and all into a hug. I rested my chin on her soft hair, inhaling the familiar, sweet scent that always managed to soothe my frayed nerves. I resigned myself to my fate. The cake is amazing, really, but how about we eat it at home next time? Just us? Some joys are best kept private. She burrowed into my chest, her voice muffled. Okay. A few seconds later, she mumbled, "You'll finish it tonight, right?" I used a ton of seasoning. My stomach gave another lurch. Well, she was the beautiful disaster I'd chosen. It was my job to adore her, even on my knees. It was just a crawfish boil cake. I'd eat it for the protein. And the fiber? I thought the crawfish boil cake incident was the apex of Lily's particular brand of sweetness, the ceiling of my public humiliation. I was young. I was naive. My girl on the path of sweet and completely unexpected had no limits. And she always managed to land her sweet and deadly strikes when I was at my most vulnerable. It happened 3 months later. I was leading the final push on our flagship project, the Keystone Data Security Platform. The whole team had been in crunch mode for a month, losing hair by the fistful, mainlining coffee, seeing the finish line in sight. Then, 48 hours before launch, lightning struck. A junior dev, probably delirious from sleep deprivation, committed what he thought was a brilliant piece of optimization code. It ran fine in the test environment, but the second it was merged into the main branch, it collided with a core communication module written by one of the veterans. It was like matter and antimatter. The entire system in the pre-production environment exploded into a shower of sparks. Data streams went haywire, core services crashed, and the monitoring alerts started screaming like a fireworks finale. Worse, the system had imploded gracefully. On the outside, everything looked calm. Inside, it was a smoldering ruin. By the time we spotted the problem and scrambled to roll back the update, it was too late. A small but significant chunk of real user data had been corrupted and deleted in the chaos. It was a Waterloo moment for a data security company. The news spread like wildfire. Reddit, private Slack channels, even a few tech blogs started running with it. Project Keystone? More like Project Tombstone. Is user data a joke to them? Stellar Solutions' reputation in the toilet? Flagship project crashes and burns before launch. Insider leak. Led Chris Morgan isn't over his head. Total management failure. The wave of mockery, doubt, and schadenfreude was overwhelming. Upper management was furious. We were locked in one emergency meeting after another, the atmosphere so tense you could taste it. Jim, with dark circles the size of dinner plates, clapped me on the shoulder, his voice raspy. "Chris, you gotta hold it together. Focus on recovery, minimize the damage. Everything else." Sigh. I hold myself up in a conference room thick with cigarette smoke, chain smoking. My laptop screen was a tapestry of crash logs and rollback failure messages, each one a jeering face. My phone rang nonstop. Angry clients, condescending condolences from industry rivals, even headhunters swooping in like vultures. Exhaustion, anxiety, self-doubt, and a crushing sense of failure washed over me in cold waves. I felt like I was standing on a cliff edge, with a bottomless abyss in front of me and a tidal wave of scorn at my back. After nearly 40 straight hours of work, my eyes were roadmaps of red, my face covered in stubble. I was a boneless heap in a conference room chair, too tired to even lift a finger. The recovery effort had stalled. A few key data nodes seemed cursed, refusing to restore. Despair began to wrap around me like a vine, tightening its grip. As I was staring at the ceiling, feeling my soul about to float away, my phone buzzed weakly in my pocket. It was Lily. I swiped open the screen, barely having the energy to type. It was a WhatsApp group invite link. The name was childish and garish. The Candy Crew. What the hell? The Candy Crew? Was she serious? Now, of all times, she was sharing a link to some cute snack blog or a group for her preschool kids' art projects. I was so annoyed, I wanted to throw the phone against the wall. My finger hovered over the screen. A few seconds passed. Fine. I'll see what new brand of nonsense this is. Might as well take a breather. In a fit of self-loathing, I tapped the offensively pink link. A cheerful ding sounded, and the screen changed. A new WhatsApp group appeared. The name was, indeed, the Candy Crew. The profile pictures were a random assortment of cartoon animals, landscape photos, and even a few baby pictures. It had the distinct vibe of a preschool parents group chat. The moment I joined, before I could even see who was in it, Lily's familiar, slightly too excited voice note popped up. She was using her sweet, gentle tone, the one she used for her kids. Tada! Welcome, my darling Chris, to the Candy Crew. Confetti. Your personal sweet treat task force has assembled. High fructose warning ahead. All non-essential personnel, please replenish your sugar levels immediately. I just stared. My brain was buzzing. Sugar levels? I needed adrenaline. I needed a defibrillator. I needed a heavy-duty crane to pull me out of this pit of despair. And she'd assembled a group of preschool parents to do. What? Give me candy? The sweetness level was off the charts. But was it going to solve a catastrophic server crash and massive data loss? Was it going to shut up the trolls on Reddit? A hot spike of anger, fueled by sleep deprivation and immense pressure, shot through me. I jabbed at the screen, my fingers flying, my message dripping with venom. Lily, can you please not? My world is ending over here. The project crashed. We lost data. The whole internet is laughing at us. I'm losing my goddamn mind. I'm not in the mood to play Candyland with you. Just leave me alone. I sent the message and slammed my phone face down on the table with a clatter. A few of my colleagues, equally exhausted zombies, looked up at me with blank, tired eyes. The phone buzzed again, insistently, several times. I gritted my teeth, held out for a few seconds, then snatched it back up. The group was blowing up, but not because of my angry outburst. It was in response to Lily's welcome message. The peaceful, parent group vibe had been shattered by a rapid-fire succession of concise, powerful text messages. And my darling Chris, is this Lily's Chris? Project Keystone? From Stellar Solutions? I'm a principal engineer at AWS, cloud storage and disaster recovery. Need support on a low-level data restore? Have your boss call my cell tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. 206 XXXXXX, Mr. Lee. The profile pic was a fluffy white cloud. Small world. I'm on the architecture team at Google, high availability and fault tolerance. Your core communication module crashed? Send me the port logs. DM me. The profile pic was a minimalist penguin logo. Meta here, real-time big data processing and rollback solutions. Anything for Ms. Lily is a priority for my kid. Chris, you need hands to track down the data stream corruption nodes? I'm on standby. The profile pic was a dancing musical note. Oh, is Chris in trouble? My husband is at CrowdStrike. They do penetration testing and vulnerability patching. I just called him. He said he'll pull their director of engineering into the group. And my darling Chris, don't you worry about a thing. The profile pic was a close-up of a smiling toddler. Data loss? Ms. Lily, don't panic. I know a few people at the top data recovery labs in the country, the kind the FBI uses for forensic analysis. Want their contact info? The profile pic was a set of scales. The messages kept coming, one after another, so fast I could barely read them. The names and affiliations behind those user IDs were like a string of depth charges, exploding one by one in my exhausted, nearly numb brain. AWS Principal Engineer, Google Architecture, Meta, CrowdStrike, FBI-grade data, recovery. My mouth hung open. My fingers were trembling slightly as I stared at the screen. The conference room was deathly quiet, save for the monotonous hiss of the air conditioning. The despair and frustration that had been choking me moments before were blown to smithereens by this sudden, overwhelmingly hardcore candy rescue, leaving only stunned disbelief and a sense of absurd, giddy joy. This wasn't the Candy Crew. This was a star-studded, gold-plated team of the industry's top engineers, a Tech World Justice League masquerading as a preschool parents group. My eyes slowly drifted to the most active member of the group, the one with the cute little sunshine icon for a profile picture. Lily. She posted a sticker of a cat covering its mouth and giggling, followed by another voice note. I tapped it with a shaking finger. Her voice was still sweet and soft, with a hint of playful mischief, like a fruit candy melting in the sun. It slid cleanly into my ear. Silly Chris, see? I told you it was your sweet treat task force. Do you believe me now? Now, I'll get it together. Glucose levels replenished. Time to get to work. Glucose. I stared at the little bouncing sun on my screen, then back at the flood of messages from titans of the tech industry. A hot, powerful current surged from my chest into my throat, making my eyes burn. The anger and despair were gone, washed away by a tsunami of shock, elation, and a profound, overwhelming warmth. So that's what she meant by sugar. It wasn't a childish game. It was an ace she'd been quietly building for me, a card powerful enough to turn the tables, save for my darkest, most helpless moment. Deployed in her own way, her ridiculously, unexpectedly, powerfully sweet way. I shot up from my chair, so fast I nearly knocked it over. The exhaustion of the last 2 days was miraculously burned away by a massive jolt of adrenaline. I grabbed my phone, my fingers still unsteady with excitement, and typed furiously into the group, each word deliberate and heavy with gratitude. Thank you all so much. You're the cavalry. I'm speechless. At Fluffy Cloud Mister. Lee, I have your number. I'm telling my boss right now. At Penguin at Music Note, at Toddler Mom at Scales. Everyone, I owe you big. The project is critical, so I won't waste time at pleasantries. My boss is calling Mr. Lee immediately. I'll organize the relevant logs and error reports and DM them to you all shortly. Thank you. After sending the message, I took a deep breath, my lungs filling with newfound strength. I turned to Jim and the others, who were staring at me, their jaws practically on their keyboards. My voice trembled with excitement, but it rang out loud and clear. Jim, guys, we got a lifeline. Honest-to-God miracle workers have arrived. Move. I need all the logs from before and after the encryption and communication modules conflicted, and a full report on the scope of data loss. Now, the most detailed versions you can find. Our elite support team is here. The next 48 hours were the most surreal, efficient, and heartwarming of my entire career. Jim personally called Mr. Lee from AWS, his tone so reverent he was one step away from begging, "Save us, oh great one." And Mr. Lee was a god. In a few short sentences, he diagnosed the problem, pointing out how the rookie's optimization code was fatally corrupting storage metadata under extreme concurrent loads. He then remotely guided us through a low-level data block verification and repair. The engineers from Google and Meta, meanwhile, jumped in. One analyzed the port logs and pinpointed a logical flaw in the communication module's exception handling. The other quickly provided a highly efficient protocol for isolating the data stream contamination and performing an incremental rollback. The toddler mom's husband, the director from CrowdStrike, brought in a small team to remotely access our system, helping with a security audit and patching the vulnerability. And the contact for the forensic data recovery lab was sent over our ultimate safety net. The Candy Crew group chat transformed completely. Technical terms, code snippets, log screenshots, and architectural diagrams flew back and forth, interspersed with baby photos and discussions about weekend playdates and pickup duty. The same people I'd only ever seen on stage at tech conferences were now patiently answering our most basic questions, their tone as casual as if they were discussing what to have for dinner. And Lily, she was the perfect quartermaster and morale officer. At 3 or 4 in the morning, when the technical discussion was at its peak, she would suddenly pop up. "You guys are working so hard. I've ordered a round of Lifeline boba tea for everyone. Should be at the Stellar Solutions reception desk in 30 minutes. Tell them it's the candy delivery. Chris, yours has extra pudding. Don't you dare give it to Jim. His blood sugar is high enough. Mr. Lee, I heard you coughing on your last voice note, so I ordered you a hot honey pear tea. Drink it while it's warm. And Brenda, your favorite, an iced, unsweetened Americano. To keep you sharp, hot beverage, piping hot boba, sweet tea, and strong coffee would arrive right on time, a physical manifestation of her care in our bleak, lifeless office. My exhausted, near-broken colleagues would hold the warm cups, feel the sweetness and warmth seep into them, and look from the professional guidance of the experts on their screens to the treats in their hands. The despair in their eyes slowly gave way to a look of incredulous, renewed determination. The mess we thought would take a week, or even longer, to clean up was wrestled back under control just before the deadline, all thanks to the full court press from the Sweet Tree Task Force. Most of the lost data was miraculously recovered. The core services were stabilized and launched, and the security hole was plugged for good. When the health check curves on the monitoring dashboard finally flattened out into beautiful, steady green lines, a massive, post-disaster cheer erupted from the entire team. Jim was so excited he slapped me on the back hard enough to nearly send me through my monitor. "My man, your fiancée. She's a goddamn treasure. She saved us. She saved our asses." I rubbed my aching back, grinning like an idiot. I had only one thought in my head. Lily, my sunshine, my glucose, my everything. This time, her sweetness went straight to the heart, and it had saved my life. With the project crisis averted, the online mockery died down. In fact, because of our incredibly efficient crisis management, Stellar Solutions' industry reputation actually got a boost. The company handed out rewards, and not only did I keep my job as project lead, I got an unexpected promotion and a raise. Jim clapped my shoulder, winking. "Once that bonus hits, you better treat that strategic nuclear weapon of a fiancé of yours right." Once the dust settled, still shaken but overflowing with gratitude, I finally had time to properly interrogate my deceptively powerful girl. That evening, I booked a table at her favorite waterfront restaurant, the one you had to reserve a month in advance. Outside the window, the city lights sparkled across the water. The table was filled with exquisite dishes, the atmosphere dripping with romance. I was cutting my steak, but my eyes were locked on Lily, who was taking tiny sips of her juice, her cheeks puffed out like a hamster. Ahem! I cleared my throat, putting down my silverware and leaning forward with my most serious expression. "Okay, Ms. Davis, time to come clean. Tell me everything about your organization." She looked up, her eyes wide and innocent. "Huh? What organization? The PDA? I didn't join. Don't play dumb." I almost laughed. "The Candy Crew. All those heavy hitters. The AWS principal engineer. The Google architect. The director from CrowdStrike. Don't tell me they're all your cousins." "Oh, that." The light bulb went on. She put down her glass, a sly, proud smile spreading across her face. "Not cousins. They're all, loyal customers of my candy shop." "Candy shop?" I was lost. "Yup." She nodded enthusiastically, her eyes curving into crescents. "They're the parents of my preschoolers. I'm in charge of feeding their little candies, and we get along really well. In the parent group chat, we talk about work sometimes, not just the kids. I know you work in IT and data security, so I just paid a little extra attention. That's all." She held up 2 fingers to make a tiny little bit gesture, her expression the picture of innocence. "A little extra attention." My voice felt distant. An AWS principal engineer, a Google architect. These titans were just little candy parents to her? Yup. She started ticking them off on her fingers. Like Mr. Lee's little boy, Joey, he loves the cranberry cookies I bake. And the penguin icon, that's Mr. Lynn, his daughter, is an amazing artist, and I always praise her work, which makes him so happy. The dad from Meta has twins. They're a handful, but they adore me. And toddler mom, her little one had terrible separation anxiety when he first started. I was the one who held him and calmed him down every morning. She chattered on about the parents and their kids, her tone casual and affectionate, as if she were talking about next-door neighbors. I listened dumbfounded. This wasn't a little attention. This was the slow, careful cultivation of a world-class network. She had used her sweetness, her thoughtfulness, her genuine love for those children to turn some of the most powerful people in their fields into her loyal allies. And she did it all simply because she loved me, and she knew what I did for a living, so she quietly extended that love into a world that I could access. A massive wave of warmth, mixed with an incredible sense of pride and gratitude, washed over me. I watched her animated profile in the soft restaurant light, looking impossibly beautiful. So my throat felt tight, my voice low and tender in a way that surprised even me. "When you said in the group chat that I was your glucose." She turned to meet my gaze, her smile sweet enough to melt the most hardened block of code. "Of course. You're in tech. You burn so much brain power, you need a fast energy source. Glucose is the most direct. And me, I'm in charge of your sugar supply." She tilted her head, her eyes shining with the purest light. "You fight the battles in the world of code, and I'll be your support, giving you sugar my way. So you'll always have the energy to keep going." Sweet, right? Sweet. It was so damn sweet my heart was trying to beat its way out of my chest. This wasn't glucose. This was high-purity, soul-infused honey. I couldn't stop myself. I reached across the table and took her small, cool hand in mine. Sweet, my voice was hoarse. Lily, how can you be so sweet? Her face flushed the color of a ripe peach. Her long lashes swept down shyly as she mumbled, because I love you, silly. The project crisis led to a promotion and a raise, and an unexpected nuclear-grade network of contacts. By all accounts, I should have been riding high. But Lily, my sweet, personal WMD, had no intention of letting my life story proceed along a predictable path. Her sweetness was always accompanied by a blindside surprise. One Saturday, I was melting into the couch, enjoying a rare moment of peace, rewatching an old movie on the projector. Lily was on the floor, cross-legged, her beloved planner open, surrounded by a rainbow of highlighters. She was humming a little tune, her head bobbing. Suddenly, her head shot up, her eyes shining like she'd just discovered a new continent. Chris. My stomach dropped. That familiar tone of voice, the one full of a kid's excitement over a new toy. The last time I'd heard it was right before the crawfish boil cake was born. A sense of foreboding washed over me. What? What is it? I asked, cautiously pausing the movie. She snapped her planner shut, sprang to her feet like a nimble deer, and shoved her phone in my face. Look at this. Isn't it the coolest thing ever? On the screen was a gaming forum post, the title in bold, red letters. Exclusive leak. Ethereum Conquest's strongest hidden dungeon, the Void Corridor. World first kill. Mysterious player Glucose achieves God status. Below was an embedded gameplay video. In the video, a player named Glucose was controlling an extremely obscure support character, a stargazer. In the bizarre, trap-filled, boss-infested dungeon, their movements were as fluid and unpredictable as a ghost's. Their positioning was pixel-perfect, their spell-casting timing sublime. They pulled off insane saves, used the environment to their advantage, and perfectly anticipated every enemy attack. They had turned a character universally considered a liability into the core of the team, controlling the entire flow of battle. In the final moments, with the rest of the team nearly wiped out, Glucose pulled off an unbelievable, high-risk maneuver, using a boss mechanic against itself to secure a jaw-dropping, last-second victory. The comments section was exploding. WTF? Glucose? Is that an AI playing? You can do that with a stargazer? Have I been playing a different game? Teach me your ways, master. Please carry me. Glucose? That name is sweet but deadly. I was stunned. The skill, the game sense. This was a top-tier professional player. Wait a second. Glucose? Why did that name sound so familiar? My head turned slowly, mechanically, to the girl beside me, who was swinging her feet happily, her face a perfect picture of "Aren't I amazing?" I swallowed hard. This Glucose. That's you. Yup. She nodded emphatically, her expression one of "Isn't it obvious?" So, am I good? I've been practicing in secret for ages. I wanted to surprise you. Surprise? This was a shock. I've been playing Ethereum 4 or 5 years and had barely scraped my way into the top 100 on the server. And my girlfriend, this sweet, harmless preschool teacher who spent her days singing songs and doing arts and crafts, was secretly a hidden god-tier player who could conquer the hardest dungeon of the year. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. But when did you? My own CPU was starting to overheat. When you were working late, she said, ticking it off on her fingers. After the kids go to bed at night, I don't have much to do. And I saw how much you love playing this game, so I thought, if I got really good, maybe we could run dungeons together, and I could help you beat up the mean players who bully you. She shook her little fists, her face a mask of fierce, protective loyalty. A wave of warmth, mixed with a feeling of helpless amusement, washed over me. So all those times she said she was prepping for class or learning a new craft were just a cover for her secretly grinding to become a pro gamer. Also, she could play with me and have my back. So I looked into her shining eyes, a bold, slightly embarrassing idea forming in my mind. My guild is attempting a new raid next week, and we're short a good support player. Master Glucose, would you be available? You got it. Lily puffed out her chest, full of bravado. Leave it to me. Glucose, reporting for duty. I guarantee my darling Chris will be so well-heeled he'll be topping the damage charts. Looking at her confident, professional gamer for higher expression, I couldn't help but laugh. I reached out and pulled her into my arms, resting my chin on her soft hair. All right, then during the raid, I'll just be in charge of spamming. You're amazing, and save me in the chat. She giggled in my arms, her laughter like silver bells, chasing away every last shadow. 4 years into our relationship, we weren't getting any younger, and the parental pressure to get married was reaching a fever pitch. I figured it was time to make this ridiculously sweet little sunbeam officially mine. I spent 6 months planning the proposal. The location was a scenic overlook she'd always wanted to visit, one with a panoramic view of the city lights. I had secretly measured one of her old rings and had a custom one made through Jim's jeweler cousin. A central diamond surrounded by a halo of tiny pink diamonds, like a star surrounded by its planets, or the sparkle in her sweet smile. Everything was ready. I was as nervous as I was before my first big co-deployment. That evening, I was suited up, my palms sweating, driving a rented convertible for maximum effect, with a beautifully dressed Lily up the mountain. The sunset painted the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The overlook was deserted, with only a gentle breeze for company. In the distance, the city lights began to twinkle on, like a flowing river of stars. I took a deep breath, ready to drop to one knee and pull the little blue box from my pocket, ready to deliver the heartfelt speech I had rehearsed 1,000 times. Chris. Lily suddenly turned to me, her eyes sparkling, her face alight with an expression I'd never seen before, a mix of excitement, shyness, and pure resolve. Huh? What's up? My hand froze mid-pocket reach. Had my plan been leaked? She took a deep breath, and then, to my utter astonishment, she beat me to it. From her own little purse, she pulled out a velvet box. She opened it. Inside lay a man's ring. The design was simple and elegant, a platinum band with a brushed matte finish. In the center was an inset row of tiny, perfectly cut black diamonds. It was understated, strong, and confident. It was so perfectly my style, it hit the mark even better than the ring I'd chosen for myself. She held the box in both hands, her face flushed with a mixture of excitement and shyness, like a ripe peach. She looked up at me, her big, sweet eyes now filled with a powerful seriousness, her voice quiet but clear over the hilltop wind. Chris Morgan, will you marry me? Boom. A firework exploded in my brain. I was completely frozen. The wind whipped around me, messing up my hair and making the carefully prepared speech and the little blue box in my pocket feel utterly obsolete. This wasn't in the script. I was supposed to be the one on one knee. How'd I get ambushed? This girl, always with the sneak attacks. The immense shock was followed by a tidal wave of joy and warmth that completely submerged me. She knew me. She knew me so well. She even knew the exact style of ring I would love. This gesture, more than any words she could ever say, was a declaration of her love and her commitment. Not to passively wait for me, but to actively, determinedly stand beside me, to walk into the future as my equal. I looked at her small, trembling hands holding the ring box, at her eyes filled with nervous anticipation, and I started to laugh. It was a deep, joyous laugh that made my eyes well up. I took a step forward, but instead of taking the box from her, I opened my arms and pulled this girl, this endless source of surprise and sweetness, into the tightest hug I could manage, as if I could absorb her into my very bones. You little sneak. My voice was muffled in her hair, thick with laughter and emotion. Stealing my lines, huh? The ring. I love it. I absolutely love it. I loosened my grip slightly, reached into my own pocket, and pulled out the little blue box I had guarded for so long. I opened it, revealing the sparkling pink diamond ring. I took a step back, and as Lily's hands flew to her mouth in surprise, I knelt solemnly on one knee. I held the ring up to her, my gaze soft but unwavering. Lily Davis, my sunshine, my glucose, my everything. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life tasting this one-of-a-kind sweetness? The wind whispered around us, and the city lights glittered like a million tiny blessings. Lily's eyes filled with tears that rolled down her cheeks, but her face broke into a smile more brilliant than the starry sky. She nodded vigorously, her voice choked with emotion but perfectly clear. Yes, Chris, I'll marry you. 100 times yes. I smiled, sliding the ring onto her finger. She, in turn, took the black diamond ring and carefully placed it on my hand. Our fingertips touched. The rings were cool, but my heart was on fire. She looked down at the ring sparkling on her hand, then back up at me, tears still on her cheeks, but her smile was sly and sweet, like a cat that had gotten the cream. She stood on her tiptoes, leaned in close, and her warm breath tickled my ear as she whispered, in a voice only I could hear, "Okay, husband, now it's my turn to feed you." 1 year later, the wedding venue looked like a giant, fantastical Candyland. Fluffy cotton candy clouds drifted below the ceiling. Archways were built from giant lollipops. A chocolate fountain flowed with a sweet aroma, and even the backs of the guest chairs were decorated with delicate sugar cookies. The air was thick with sweetness, a perfect reflection of the bride. I stood on the flower-decked altar in my tailored suit, my palms still a little sweaty, but my heart was calm. My gaze traveled past the smiling faces of our guests, locking onto the figure standing at the far end of the aisle, her arm linked with her father's. The wedding march began to play. The heavy, ornate doors, decorated with sugar flowers, swung slowly open. Sunlight and the collective gaze of our guests landed on her. Lily stood in the light, dressed in a simple, elegant white gown. The design was unique, not a traditional ball gown, but a sleek A-line satin dress. The only embellishments were on the shoulders and the hem, where glittering crystals and tiny pearls were arranged in the pattern of winding vines and little candies. Her veil was light and airy, trailing far behind her, and embroidered on it in silver thread was a subtle, shimmering chemical formula. C6H12O6. Glucose. Her head was slightly bowed, her long lashes casting soft shadows on her cheeks. As the music swelled, she took her father's arm and began her walk down the aisle, one step at a time, toward me. There was no earth-shattering drama, just a sense of rightness, of gentle, honey-sweet inevitability. Every step she took landed squarely on my heart. Her unique, comforting scent seemed to drift across the room, wrapping around me. Finally, she stopped just an arm's length away. Her father, his eyes a little misty, placed her hand in mine and gave my hand a firm, meaningful squeeze. The officiant, with a warm smile, guided us through the ceremony. It was time to exchange the rings. Just then, Lily shot me a mischievous wink. Before I could even begin to guess what new surprise she had concocted, she turned her head slightly and, looking to the front row where a group of adorable, perfectly dressed children, her favorite students from preschool, were sitting, she made a playful gesture. The children understood immediately, their faces beaming with excitement. Instead of a traditional ring bearer with a pillow, they each scrambled to pull something from their pockets. Small, shiny metallic squares. Then, under the curious and amused gazes of all our guests, the little ones formed a line and, with great concentration, began placing the metal squares one by one along an invisible path of flower petals between Lily and me. Click, click, click. The soft sound of metal was clear in the quiet hall. When the last piece was in place, a chain of a dozen tiny, ornate router models, custom-made for the wedding, of course, formed a human Wi-Fi signal chain down the center of the aisle. And at the very end, in the spot with the strongest full-bar signal, sat our ring box. The guests were silent for a second, and then the room erupted in a wave of warm, appreciative laughter and applause. A human Wi-Fi chain. That's brilliant. That's Ms. Lily for you. Even her wedding is creative. Chris, you're never escaping her signal coverage now, buddy. The sweetness is off the charts. And so is the geekiness. Jim was leading the cheers, laughing the loudest. Even the heavy-hitter parents from the Candy crew, sitting in the front row, were grinning and clapping. I couldn't hold it in either. I looked at the tech-inspired, childlike Wi-Fi chain on the floor, then at Lily, who was smiling like a clever fox who had just raided the hen house. My shoulders shook with laughter. This girl, she could turn anything into an event. Only she could perfectly blend internet addiction and pure sweetness. Surrounded by the joyful noise, we picked up the rings resting on the full-strength signal and placed them on each other's fingers. The cool platinum encircled our fingers and our lives. You may now kiss your bride, the officiant announced with a smile. I took a deep breath and gently lifted the gossamer-thin veil. Under the lights, Her face was flawless, flushed with a rosy hue of shyness and joy that was more tempting than any candy. In her wide, star-filled eyes, I could see my own reflection and nothing else. She tilted her face up to mine, her long lashes fluttering like butterfly wings, her lips curved into a sly, impossibly sweet smile. In a whisper only I could hear, she repeated her promise. "Okay, husband. Now it's my turn to feed you." Before the words had even faded, I leaned down and kissed her deeply. The taste was familiar, comforting, and sweet, like a fresh peach still wet with morning dew, like cream melting on the tongue, like the warmth and strength she brought with every one of her unexpected gifts. It was my own personal, inexhaustible supply of glucose. The applause was thunderous, the cheers deafening. I held my new bride tight in my arms. My sunshine, my glucose, the sweetest and most incredible miracle of my life. The future was long. Code would be updated, games would come and go, but I knew that as long as I had her, my world would always have a full-strength signal and a lifetime supply of sweetness. End.